Hi, everybody. So, I always like beginning security discussions with risk because really, information security is risk management. Start by looking at your assets and what they are worth. Look at the threats and vulnerabilities and figure out what the potential for loss is based on probability and impact. And then make a good decision based on the potential value for loss and what a good countermeasure would be. And of course, continue to monitor for risk after that. So if we look at this a little bit more specifically, in the realm of information security, we have to start with the very beginning. Here we look at the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Those are the three tenets of security. When we talk about securing an organization, those are the three services we're focused on. Now, the problem is that security always costs something. There's always a trade-off for security. So usually that trade-off is performance. Security usually slows things down. Sometimes it costs money. Sometimes you have to upgrade components or pay for security devices. But performance is the key trade-off. So what we have to find out is what is the right amount of security based on the needs for performance. We also take into consideration cost and user acceptance, but we're mainly looking for that balance between security and performance. All right, so let's look at confidentiality and some of the threats against it. The greatest threat is social engineering. Social engineering is all about impersonation. Impersonating someone to get access to certain knowledge, a system, a building, a room, and so forth. Phishing is a very specific type of social engineering that is commonly done through email. The PH in phishing is a throwback to the fact that it used to be very common on the phone system. We used to get these calls soliciting donations or other fraudulent activities. So now, email is the main market for this. Phishing is based on the idea that it's indiscriminate. An attacker sends a mass email going back. An attacker sends a mass mailing and casts a large enough net that he catches something. A spammer purchases a mailing list and sends the message out to everyone. One type of phishing is called spear phishing. This means it's targeted. The attacker is targeting a demographic group or a specific organization in hopes that he is more likely to be successful. And a specific type of spear phishing is called whaling. This is when the spear phishing is focused on ensnaring senior leaders. Now, senior leaders sometimes insist on having access to everything, but sometimes they don't have time to get the security training that everyone else gets. And you'd think they would be the most focused on avoiding risk, but that's not always the case. So this might be why whaling attacks are successful. Now, going back to the idea of phishing, we also have vishing. The idea here is that the attacker exploits voice over IP systems. With caller ID, you would think that you could detect this type of attack. But phone numbers are as easy to spoof as anything else. So that is not always a perfect way to detect these types of attacks. Another threat to confidentiality is media reuse. This is where we've stored information on a removable drive, like a thumb drive or removable hard drive. Or maybe people are sharing a laptop or some other device. If that hardware or media is not properly sanitized, we might be inadvertently passing information from one individual to another. Sanitizing media is really critical. One of the ways we could do this is zeroization, where we override the drive with zeros. It's fine in low security environments. But one thing about zeroization is that it's not good enough for really sensitive information. For that, the best thing is physical destruction. That's the only way to make sure that the data remnants are gone. Because if an attacker has the right equipment, he can still retrieve data from a disk that's been zeroized. Another point to make is that if you're storing sensitive information in the cloud, you can't do any physical sanitization. So for that, there's something called crypto shedding. This involves encrypting the entire disk with a really strong publicly known algorithm. One of the things you'll find that people in security prefer is open as opposed to closed architecture. Ideally, the algorithm is one that's tried and true and has been around for a long time. And when we use this algorithm, we'll destroy the key. We would never keep the key on the same volume that we keep the encrypted information. And that's how we destroy remnants in a cloud environment. Eavesdropping is the next threat to confidentiality. Here, we don't mean people listening on phone conversations. We mean technical eavesdropping. This means sniffers like Wireshark. Another name for a cipher is a protocol analyzer. You might hear it called a network or a packet analyzer. But the idea is that an attacker has a device on the network that captures traffic and has software that allows the attacker to view the traffic. So the easy way to defend against eavesdropping is encrypting your data. Also, you can keep the really sensitive stuff from traversing the network at all. So we want to make sure that we're aware of these threats. And we also want to have a good idea of how to mitigate against them. With social engineering, your best method is through training. Another way is to use separation of duties, because a person can't give an attacker information if they don't have it. For media reuse, we make sure we sanitize the media. And for eavesdropping, we encrypt our data.